gosh, we're recording.
Yay! I'm so
Woohoo!
excited. Our Christmas podcast.
Come on now. Do 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 do
Do,
do.
do. I didn't
I'm the
plan for
little Grinch.
obviously my ears to not fit in a shot, so we'll have to dip my head down occasionally while we're talking. But
We are live.
yeah, I'm super excited. I'm joined by Jacob Esser. He's the programs manager in quality and expansion at Youth Frontiers. I am so excited to talk to him. We have a long kind of background in the industry together, but just really wanted to hear about this new organization and more about the role and how we can kind of shine some light on it and how we can get involved. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, Celeste.
Yeah.
It's good to be on your podcast.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
How do you like running a podcast?
I like it. Labor of love. It's good. I do like it because I feel like, you and I have known each other for a really long time. And to be able to highlight all these really great people that I get to talk to, I think that's one of the really fun parts about it. So yeah, I'm super excited about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So tell me a little bit about, or tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and background and share a little bit about that.
Yeah, super grateful to be plugged in with your viewership. I know that you have a wide reach and you're super involved in every industry event and organization, and that's just such a good way to be in the world of real estate and construction because I was there, but now I'm here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I currently am the programs manager for a local nonprofit local to the Twin Cities called Youth Frontiers. And I wear a bunch of different hats, just like most people in for profit or nonprofit for the most part. Yeah. And I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
That would be great. There's a lot of fun stuff going on around here.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Well, tell us a little bit about, so kind of an overall overview of just who the organization is, Youth Frontier,
Sure.
and then we can kind of dive into day in the life of Jacob.
Okay, cool. You might think we are a yoga studio or an essential oil nonprofit, if that is such a thing. But we are not. No. Youth Frontiers is an organization that's been around for about 35 years, over 35 years. And we have been facilitating character building programs for schools for most of that time. But most recently, we've even worked our way into working with young adults and professionals. And our mission is to bring more character and civility into the community. And we do that through creating shared meaningful experiences. So our shared meaningful experiences look like typically the bulk of our business is within schools and our day-long programs. So picture a 5-day long non-religious affiliated camp, right? So you've got small group games, big group games, small group conversations in your little cabin, big group conversations, and you eat together and you dance together and you have a bonfire at the end of the camp. Well, picture all of that 5 days crammed into 5 hours.
Wow.
And that's what we do in schools every day. So we send out teams of 2 or 3 different facilitators, and they go all over the country, predominantly in the Midwest, and lead retreats for kids of all ages. And whatever age the kid is depends on, or the retreat depends on the age of the students, right? Because each retreat has been formed and built to developmentally fit for those students. So fourth graders, they get what's called a kindness retreat, which is where we go in and facilitate a day all about kindness. And our goal is that every single kid in that room experiences a day where they're treated with nothing but kindness. And we're proving that it's possible so that when we leave the next day, they know that they can be kind to each other and they can throw what we call kindness boomerangs back and forth.
Yeah.
So that's a good example of kind of what we do. The
Yeah.
middle schoolers get what's called the courage retreat, which is my personal favorite. We talk about having moral courage, the courage to stand up, the courage to do what you know is right, which is just a huge message for 7th and 8th graders, 6th, 7th, 8th grade range. And then respect retreats for the 9th grades, which are kind of our bread and butter since 35 years ago. That's what I usually am facilitating once a week. It's a respect retreat for 9th graders. So high schoolers It's awesome. It's all about taking another look at how you look at yourself, how you look at other people. Are you the one standing up for respect, or are you maybe adding to the not standing up, the problem, maybe, whatever
Yeah,
that might be. 12th graders, they get a wisdom retreat, which is where we begin to say goodbye. And then I'll talk more about our additional
sure.
programming later in the
Yeah,
podcast. But that's what we do.
that's fantastic. So how would somebody, is it the school facilitating that, or because you guys have been around for, 35 years,
Right.
you've probably built up a reputation to deliver some of that? Like, how does that kind of, if you were a school, how would you start that or sign up to have one of these retreats?
Right. Yeah. So we work with about 400 different schools every year. So each school kind of has its own story about how it found Youth Frontiers. But yeah, they work together with our external relations team to find a date, to book it, to make sure funding is taken care of. And we have some creative ways around funding to make things happen, because we also have an entire team dedicated to finding donors and building relationships with corporate clients in a really creative way. And we always try to say that we never let funding become the reason we don't do the work, the mission. The mission is to go out there and create shared meaningful experiences that inspire character and civility. So we want to do the work.
Yeah.
So anyway, schools would bring us in. We work super closely with them. Typically, it might be one teacher or a counselor or the principal sort of takes this on their plate to help us plan this day.
Okay.
And we show up, two, three of us, and we have everything from the speakers to the handouts to everything we need to facilitate the entire
Okay.
5 hour long program.
Yeah.
And then and we pack up and leave. And then we see them next year.
Yeah.
Our
Okay.
rebook rate is typically around 95%. So
Wow.
very often we're going back to schools, and some schools we've been working with for the entire 35 years.
Wow. And it's a once a
Yeah.
year, or is it really kind of depends on the school and maybe the different programs, or is it a quarterly activity with
No,
this?
it's once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we typically work with schools on an annual basis.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's
okay.
so much fun, Celeste. It's so
Yeah.
much fun. Our
Well,
team of
so
like 25 facilitators are just like this bunch. It's like half of them are musicians, by the way, because most of the retreats have a music element. So our team is just this group of 15, 20 people that are just like ready to wake up at 5 in the morning,
yeah.
drive to Osceola, Minnesota, or wherever that is,
Yeah.
and crank out this high energy, high impact day, pack up, and then do it again the next day.
Yeah.
So it takes kind of a unique individual to do this job.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a lot of passion in the work, and the payoff is insane. And I mean, seeing a fourth grader, go up and apologize to somebody,
Yeah.
or seeing an eighth grader get up on a microphone in front of its 200 classmates and say, "Hey, my act of courage is to stick up for that kid that I know is getting made fun of day in after day out, and I'm
That's
sick of it,
incredible.
and I want to do something about it." Or like the freshman who has never public spoken in her life, and she gets up at the end and says, "Hey, um, I'm going to commit to respecting myself more, because I'm really hard on myself and I know it's just not fair. And I'm going to leave today and, take another look at how I talk to myself when I look in the mirror."
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So,
Yeah.
okay, we've known each other for a while. We've been in the same industry of design construction world, but you started at Youth Frontiers, right? After college, and you made your way back, correct?
I
Share
did.
a little
Yeah.
bit about
I,
that journey.
I am a boomerang youth frontierian. So after I graduated from the University of Iowa, I took a job as a tech recruiter out in Washington, D.C., making 200 cold calls a day. I couldn't roll up my sleeves. I had to wear pleated pants and a neutral color tie, or else I
Yeah,
got in trouble. Not my style.
that's not your style.
I lasted like 8 or 9 months, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, this is wrong, dude. Like, do better, Jake. Do better. And so I left that job, but I wasn't ready to leave the East Coast. And I quickly found another gig, which was super random, out of the blue. I was a tour guide of downtown Washington, D.C., but on a Segway.
Oh, wow.
So for the next 6 months, I spent 8 hours on the machine, going 11 and a half miles an hour, past the White House, the Capitol, and all of the memorials, and giving people tours. And that's when I suddenly was like, yo, I think you can like your job.
Yeah.
I think we're supposed to like our jobs. So,
Yeah.
I kinda made a commitment to always make sure I really like what I do. And from there, I realized, okay, if I like public speaking and I'm liking this kind of in front of people, well, I've gotta move back to Minneapolis at some point, and that's when I found Youth Frontiers. And sure enough, that job description, like, fit perfectly. So I started for, um, like 4 years then. I worked as one of those people that packs up early in the morning, goes out to a school, and leads a retreat, and gets to connect with all of these young humans all over our country. And I did that for 4 years, and then things changed in my life. I ended up needing to get not needing to get married, that's not how you say that. I decided, my wife and I, now we got married, so, I couldn't travel as much, and I needed to kinda dial in a few things, and sure enough, my, resources and my network helped me get out of this and into a new role that allowed me to have a little bit more of that kind of freedom to not travel as much and a little bit more financial security, and I felt really good about that.
Yeah.
So that's what led me to the world of construction where I ultimately met you, my
Yeah.
long lost coworker that never was.
Right?
Yeah,
And we worked
yeah.
on a project together.
And we
Um,
got to work on a project together, that was awesome.
I know.
So glad that we got to do that. I'm a huge fan of Spectrum. I think the design build approach y'all have, and I've met everyone on your team.
Thanks,
I think you got a really nice thing going over there.
we do. We're really excited about it. You talk about having a group of individuals that are really passionate about what they do. I mean, I feel that really about our group too. Um,
Right,
and
right.
just the impacts that we're having on organizations, culture, and employees as it relates to, the design of their space and that.
It's
Okay,
huge. It's
I
huge.
know. I know. So tell us a little bit about like a week in the life of Jacob at Youth Frontiers.
Okay, okay. So after spending an additional 4 years in the construction space, I had breakfast with the CEO
Oh,
of Youth Frontiers
yeah.
and was like, whoa, this timing might just be great, you know? I don't love what I'm doing. And I remember back when I was in DC, I was like, you gotta love what you're doing. I loved my team, I loved everything, but construction just wasn't like filling me kind of the way that I
Sure.
knew I sort of needed to be filled.
Yeah.
And there was a new role developing here back at Youth Frontiers that was able to leverage all of my experience over the last 4 years in construction, but then also still get reconnected to that mission of working with young people, which is so now my role as a programs manager. I am out in the field once a week, on a microphone in front of 300 freshmen, usually talking about this idea of respect, which I just love to do.
Yeah.
And then the other half of the week, or the other part of the week, I work with our coaching and quality team. So we're observing retreats and we're making sure that everyone's kind of up to snuff on, making sure they understand what they're trying to accomplish with each activity, giving them coaching and pointers. And then the third part, which is kind of becoming most of my job right now, is I am spearheading our newest programming, which is called Character Academy, which is a whole new approach for Youth Frontiers and going and chasing people that maybe aren't even in high school, but are actually in college or even in their first or second year in their first job. So equipping these young people, call it ages 16 to 24, with
Okay.
the essentials to be ready for the road of life. So we've built this menu of workshops that make up Character Academy that I now am working with different strategic partners, both in the corporate space, the nonprofit space, the high school realm, the college and university realm,
Yeah.
to figure out how this programming might fit into their goals as an organization. Similar to how you work with them to talk about space. Like,
Yeah.
like how many offices do you need? How, does this need to be a flex workspace? I mean, are most people not even coming in? So do we not need to invest this much money, right? I have similar conversations about what's your onboarding process look like? What's your talent acquisition process and system? I mean, where are you finding people? And once you find them, what
Yeah.
do you do? How do you retain them? Those are the kind of questions that our programming can sort of support, and ultimately kind of become part of a company in that way.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And that just started,
Yeah,
you guys developing that
it's
care.
been around. Yeah, yeah, it's been around for a couple years, but it's sort of been in development phase. And
Sure.
I think the idea of bringing me on was, hey, you just sold a bunch of construction projects and materials. Um, any chance that that could transfer over to helping us develop this business model and
Yeah.
bring it out there and make it happen? And so that's the work that we're in right now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's kind of weaved into like some of the majority or half, would you say part of your week is doing that? Or is it, 50-50 to doing the actual retreats and then other part kind of going out and doing some outreach to like corporate clients and things like that?
It's like 50% business development, try to track people down that might be interested in learning more about our programming, and then 50% either being on retreat or supporting our
Sure.
retreat team.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So we kind of talked a little bit about really the students where you guys kind of started. Um, Talked about this kind of development of this character,
Right.
programming.
Character Academy,
Oh,
yes.
Character Academy, thank you.
Yep,
Um,
yep, no worries.
and then, but on your website, you had something around community. So tell me a little bit about that. So
Right.
program kind of for the community.
Rule number one of being a good podcast host is do your research. You did it. Nice job. You're killing it. Thank you for reminding me of that. That speaks to our program through kind of a little like a new part of our organization called Leadership Frontiers, which is mostly led by our fearless leader Joe Kavanaugh, who goes out and facilitates these workshops called Goal, Geometry of a Leader. And he's done pretty much crammed all of his 30 plus years of leadership training, leadership experience into this half day retreat style workshop for leaders. So people like
Yeah,
significant leaders within an organization, whether that be in the C-suite, director level, VP level, someone who's involved with the call it the diversity, equity, inclusion, or the talent acquisition, or the just the general community outreach type person within organizations. This is a really good time for them to take a pause and kind of reflect on the type of leader they want to be. And as a character based organization, obviously we're kind of reminding them of these core character values
yeah,
and kind of resetting them, maybe not resetting, I shouldn't say that, it's more of a grounding opportunity
yeah,
to become the awesome leader that they know they are.
yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I think we're kind of seeing that and
Yeah,
we're seeing that in regards to, so we're doing a lot of discussion around hybrid, working with executives and C-suite to say, okay, here, let's help develop kind of what your hybrid workplace or work looks like in 5, 10, 15 years. But there's this piece of what you guys are kind of doing, meaning really looking and identifying around like leadership training, right? And people really,
sure.
um, I think during COVID, it was a time for a lot of self-reflection and with it being hybrid, giving leaders the tools to be able to
Right.
manage two, different either styles of people working or just in general, if people aren't physically in the space, really
Sure.
getting
Sure.
some coaching and training in regards to that. Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds good.
absolutely. Professional development is definitely something that, especially in the real estate world, like is a requirement, right?
Yes.
But I'm always curious when I have conversations with prospects or people that are interested in learning more about our programming is what's the personal development look like? Like what's the personal journey for your internal staff, right? Is do they have opportunities to slow down, to reflect, to
Mhm.
connect? Is there intentionality behind the speakers and the kind of content that gets brought in and delivered to them?
Yeah.
you know a lot of the time it's homegrown, right? Like I would imagine you could facilitate an awesome half hour 90-minute segment for your employees at Spectrum on the power of positivity or the power of networking,
Yeah.
or the importance of being present when you're having a conversation, which is what you do when you host your podcast,
Yeah.
right? But a lot of the times these organizations, they don't have the time to develop that or plan that, or they maybe don't have a person that like is
Would
going to be able
champion
to
that.
like,
Yep.
yeah, like facilitate it for the whole company. It just wouldn't feel right. And that's when they typically look to outside vendors, and that's what we are. So, yeah, anyone could reach out to me hypothetically and say, "Hey, we're really curious about how do we, bring in this confidence workshop
Yeah.
because we've just hired 20 new people and none of them want to talk to each other. Would
Yeah.
this be a good fit?" You know?
Yeah, culture. I mean, building a great culture. I mean,
Right,
yeah,
right.
it's so fascinating to hear you say that because it still affects the world that we're in too, right? I mean,
Yeah,
culture
tell me
is
more about that. What do you mean by that?
just the people, right? Just the importance of people and understanding the office and kind of recreating the importance of the office and what does that mean for each organization. It looks very different now than it did, 5 years ago. And so I
100%.
think that focus on building a great culture, exactly what you guys are doing and helping facilitate. So kind of leads me into my next question. So pretend I'm a customer. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Do it. Christmas
Alright.
break.
Yep. Christmas segue. Okay,
Christmas
you are now a
segue.
customer.
Pretend I'm a customer. How would you
Okay.
suggest which program would be best for me, my organization?
Love it, love it. So, if you were a customer, the beauty of our organization and all the programming we have right now is that we can kind of feed all different verticals and kind of all different ranges, right? So, if let's say you were a middle school counselor,
Okay.
right? Um, I know a lot of middle school counselors that watch podcasts in the real estate
Oh, they-
industry segment. So,
okay.
no, I'm kidding. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm sure there's many out there. Um, they would say something along the lines of like, "Hey, we should facilitate some type of a retreat," or "Hey, what are we doing at the end of the year to honor our eighth graders? How can we send them off with an awesome experience?" Well, they would reach out to Youth Frontiers, and then we would work with them to identify, "Oh, you're working with your eighth grade class. Hey, that's perfect. Our courage retreat would be an awesome way to end your year." Okay. And then we go kind of down the process from there. But
Sure.
let's say you are a big
Yeah.
construction company, and you hire a lot of interns. Like you hire 10 interns, 20 interns, right? My first question would be like, what are you doing with them on that first week of work? Is it, hey, here's your laptop, and this is where you can sit when you come in 3 days a week, and by the way, on Friday we're all going out to lunch. Is it
Mhm.
as simple as that? That's fine. That works most of the time, maybe, sorta. But if there is someone who has an interest in beefing that up or making, whether it be an onboarding process or like a big change transition moment, a little bit more impactful, well, then they could reach out to us and we could work with them and say, okay, what are the age of your professionals? Or is this something that are we dealing with like the higher ups at your organization that are struggling with conflict or maybe just in need of something that this kind of breaks up the monotony of the day to day. We can kind of work as like experts in our like programming to figure out which programming might make the most impact
Sure.
for your people, whether they be young humans like fourth graders or middle schoolers or high schoolers, all the way up through the C suite. And yeah, it's as easy as just kind of being curious. And I meet with people all across the spectrum about topics, and and just have so much fun talking about it. And oftentimes can direct them to the right person to talk to if it's not me.
I think you're a perfect person for that because you're curious. Like you genuinely are an amazing person to just facilitate and like uncover exactly what either an organization or a school or somebody to really kind of find a best fit. I think
Yeah.
that fits you like so well. I mean, seriously, I feel like it was made for you, like that role specifically was made for you.
I appreciate that, and I felt the same way. I was like, "This is a no-brainer." Like, I'm
Yeah,
already in love with our Character Academy workshops. The team is awesome. Like,
yeah,
we are just in the process of getting it out into the world now.
yeah,
And yeah, I have to be super curious,
yeah,
I have to, and that's actually probably the biggest word used around Youth Frontiers is curious.
sure.
I'm curious why we're doing it this way. I'm curious how we got to this point. And maybe that could be a challenge that I put out into the world. All of the viewers watching this from
Yeah.
if you were not in a position to to think about programming within your organization, well, you are in a position to be curious.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
good.
like, hey, what's up? What's up with that new person? They don't seem like they get the deal. I
Yeah,
don't, the finance department's already kind of like distant. Who's that person? Well, be curious. Go over and say, hey, what's up?
yeah,
How do you like it here? What is it, week two? Holy smokes. Like, are you
yeah,
doing all right? Be curious, sit with somebody new. I mean, a lot of the values and things that we teach or talk about on our middle school and elementary retreats are like, hey, sit with someone new at lunch.
yeah,
Hey, like that joke that you're like that nickname you're calling that person, they might not like it that much,
yeah.
and all of those things are just I've learned in my time in corporate America is like super relevant,
It's
you know?
totally translate. I mean, it translates completely. I mean, all of this is
Right,
so, as we're
right.
talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much parallel, more so than I thought, right? Because I was just super excited to talk to you and highlight, youth frontiers and I
Oh,
always
that's nice.
enjoy talking to you. But like the parallel, like and the crossover that just seems to happen. The kind of you
For
said
sure.
a little bit of it, you know, what can we, how can our viewers get involved, help support Youth Frontiers? There's probably a couple of different ways in which they could do that. So I kind of wanted to throw that back to you and say, what ways can our listeners and viewers help support Youth Frontiers?
Great question, and thank you for asking that. And not to sound like the sales guy, even though you and I are both salespeople, I feel like
Yeah.
somewhere deep down, sales origins, sales E, even though we never want to be salesy, but we are. You can support Youth Frontiers in so many ways. You can, of course, be a donor. You can, of course, follow us. You can ask your kids if you have them, if they've ever been on a kindness, a courage, or respect retreat. The odds are maybe yes.
Okay.
It's very common that people, if you're a parent listening, ask your kid if they ever had a day that they haven't told you about because maybe they forgot or something, where they went into a big space, like whether it be the gym or the auditorium or the band room or across the street to the empty church across the street and had a whole day where two or three people came in, one of them played music, and it was a whole day about respect or kindness or courage. Probably more than 50% of your kids are going to say yes, I did have that day, because we're in so many schools here locally in Minnesota.
Yeah.
um, so maybe just be curious about if your kids have ever been a student on retreat.
Sure.
If you are in the corporate space and you are like, hey, this organization that's creating shared meaningful experiences sounds pretty cool. We have a big leadership luncheon that you can sponsor tables at or send your people to.
Okay.
And from there, you can get an even better understanding of who we are.
Okay.
And that's easy. That's easy for me to get you the information that you need.
Yeah, that would be great. So they would go on your website, and there would be a donation button there. Would they follow on
Yep.
LinkedIn, or where are you guys kind of broadcasting some of these opportunities, kind of get involved, whether it
Right.
be ship or that? Where can they follow exactly? Where can I follow?
You're awesome. Thanks for asking. LinkedIn for sure. I'm super active on LinkedIn. We do everything on Instagram.
Okay.
I know that's not everybody's jam, but we also have an email newsletter that's super easy to get plugged into via our website. And then we
Okay.
also share any upcoming events or sponsorship opportunities on our website as well.
Oh, cool. Okay. So everyone go to the
Yeah.
website, check it out. It's
Oh, you're
great.
very nice.
Click on it.
Yep. Yep.
We are one more question. It's a fun one. Maybe another time for a Christmas break.
More fun ones.
Okay. If you had to pick a theme song for your life, and it can only be one song, what would it be?
Wow. So the theme song.
So like a theme
Um,
song to your life, if you had to pick one.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. The first songs that come to mind are from my first CD ever, which would be Good Charlotte, way
Okay.
back when.
Yeah.
Maybe that rings a bell for some people. Maybe it's not gonna ring a bell or two, but um this is the anthem, throw your damn hands up, yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
it.
Um That is just high energy and like happy vibes.
Love
That one
it.
is the first song that comes to mind for me. So you know the anthem by Good Charlotte.
Okay, that's a good one. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've heard the
Okay,
song, but
okay.
like for that, like as the answer, I've heard that. So yeah,
What about you? What's your song? Because this
I
is
knew
different than like what's your karaoke
I
song?
knew you were gonna do that. I knew it. As soon as I asked, I'm like, he's gonna come back to me, and I haven't thought about it.
You didn't prep your own answer?
I know because I'm not.
That's you know what? That's okay. We
Um,
we can
Let me see
brainstorm.
here. No, I'm very much like a determined. I'm just trying to think of is there any cool songs that are like more pump up, um,
Okay. Okay.
giving up,
Um,
maybe.
what about like a little Empire State of Mind kind of thing?
Okay, like
No?
Alicia Keys.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's right, right? Or maybe that's Rihanna, I thought.
I don't know. I'll have to follow up with that. I'll have to
Yeah,
text
this is we sound like old parents right now that don't know what's going
the
on.
song title or the
This is bad. We should actually, how are your kiddos? You
artist.
talk about them on the podcast?
Yeah, no, I haven't actually. I don't know if people know I have kids.
Tell the world about your kiddos. And then I'll tell them about mine because I
No,
love
we'll
talking
tell
about
about
them.
let's tell about yours. Let's talk
No,
about
let's start.
that.
You've been doing podcasts for
I
months
know.
and we'll
That's
start with your kids.
that's so sweet. I have two girls, Birdie and Scarlett, gonna be 6 and gonna be 3 next year. I love my little girls so much. They're like some of the kindest, most caring little girls. I love them a lot. So you're
Hmm,
asking. How about
Birdie.
you? How many kids do you have?
One kid and he turns one on Monday.
What? One
Yeah,
already?
yeah,
Where
he's
was
turning
the
one
time
already. Yeah.
gone?
I know, not to sound like an old parent or grandpa, but the days are kind of long and the years are really short. That's about as real as it gets. I mean, a whole year. Levi turns one on Monday.
Oh, such a sweetie. He's such a sweetie.
Yeah, he's a super sweetie. He's got a little congestion right now. So
I know everyone
yeah, you
seems.
wonder if I'm a little congested. Yeah, he's a little congested too. And he wakes himself in the middle of the night because he's like,
Oh,
and then he wakes
geez.
up. And
It's
so
that
then,
time of
then we got to
year.
hold him. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong when he's big enough where he can kind of crash in bed with us a little bit,
Oh,
for a
fun.
little bit, and then go put him back in his crib. So it's kind of fun to cuddle with him at
Oh,
night.
that's so fun. Isn't it fun being a
Yeah,
parent? Isn't
I
it
love
fun
being a
being
parent.
I know.
I love it. It gives me
Cool.
so much to be grateful for.
Agree.
Like
Such a good way.
there's so many new little triggers to be like, oh, this is going to be really hard, but you know what? I'm so super grateful for it. Like, oh, it's 3 in the morning and he's crying. Why? But you know what? It's cool. Let's go hold him. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this, right? Or
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, there's literal, diaper residue on my arm and I'm walking out the door. I'm gonna be 10 minutes late. Sorry. You know what? And I'm grateful for it, and that's just the way it's gonna be. I'm happy about it because it slows you down. It's all good.
Yeah, but that's why I think I really am happy for you. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing a little bit about what you're doing in Youth Frontiers. And, I think that's amazing, just the impact that you guys are really setting for the future generation. You talk about being a parent, talk about having kids, you really want to, you hope that you raise your children to be kind and caring and loving individuals. And so that, you're a part of that
True.
and helping all of these other
Right.
kids, giving them the tools to do that. I'm really am
Yeah.
very grateful for you taking the time to shed some light on your organization and where you're at. And I hope that the viewers go onto your website and either be a donor or really kind of click to see how, you can support or kind of get involved in it. Any final
That would
word?
be awesome.
Any final?
Just thank you.
Yeah.
Just thank you. I hope I didn't talk too much, and I sure am grateful to be included in your podcast. And I think it's
Aw.
I think it's pretty cool that you're having the courage to get out there and interview people and record it and put it out for people to watch and hopefully take something away. So thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that. All right. Well, thank you.
All right. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.